modern hip-hop compared to olden days hip-hop? Over the past half-century, the underground scene that birthed hip-hop music has given weight to the more established mainstream scene. Hip-hop is a musical genre that is characterized by its inherently subversive nature and roots in social activism. As a result of this shift, changes in style, cadence, and lyrical content have followed, creating a scene that is practically unrecognizable and in which musicians are more interested in popularity than they are in creating music that can be listened to. Introduction. Hip-hop culture began as a means for young people in the Bronx to socialize with one another and gradually developed into a subculture that emphasized social activism, fashion, and in-depth thought. The second half of the 20th century saw widespread recognition of transformative hop's potential. It was openly defying authority in a way that other styles of music had not been able to accomplish up until that point in time. But things wouldn't always be like this. Eventually, they'd morph into what we know today as rap music, which was fueled by drug addiction and phony gangster stereotypes. Since it was first presented to the general public in 1979, hip-hop culture has seen significant shifts in many dimensions. The United States of America became familiar with a style of music due to the widespread success of the song Rapper's Delight, which was representative of the genre of rap music. The culture of hip-hop was continuously evolving over this period as a result of many different hip-hop songs being created, and numerous hip-hop subgenres rose to prominence and then went out of favor. Run DMC brought a certain style of fashion into the mainstream, specifically Adidas and tracksuits. But, as hip-hop evolved with the times, so did the fashion that went along with it. Many MCs could be seen copying or imitating flows throughout the 1970s, but as rap music got increasingly famous around the world, MCs started developing their cadence and flow. During the 1970s, many MCs could be found copying or imitating flows. In addition to this, as time went on, the lyrical aspect of hip-hop would eventually meet a generation that was significantly different from one another, with some choosing to harness the power that it offered while others did not. Hip-hop is a genre of music that is well known for its propensity toward transformation. Although throughout its history, hip-hop has gone through significant shifts both in terms of its culture and its aesthetic, the culture of hip-hop has ultimately shifted to one in which notoriety is sought after more than a reputation as a talented artist. Alterations made to the hip-hop culture. When people in the Bronx were looking for a way out of their impoverished lives, hip-hop provided them. It took bits and pieces of culture from other places, like Jamaica, and reworked them into a beautiful culture that celebrates positivity, love, and music. People who had nothing to begin with, and who had grown up in places like the Bronx, which are dismal and deadly, all of a sudden had a release. Every week there were parties where a DJ would play some funk music backed by breakbeats, and the crowd would go crazy for it. A few years later, in the middle of the 1980s, Run DMC had established itself as one of the most successful hip-hop groups in the history of the genre. They were from New York and they changed the fashion scene in the hip-hop community. It was the first time that a hip-hop group had influenced the fashion of an entire nation, even though fashion has long played a significant role in the culture. The members of Run DMC, who are depicted here, became well known for the bucket hats, large chains, tracksuits, and Adidas sneakers that they wore. From that point on, the phenomenon of rappers serving as national models for fashion evolved into a pattern that is still observed to this day. On the other hand, as time went on and as hip-hop music developed, the kind of attire that famous performers wore underwent a significant transformation. Nowadays, the culture places more of an emphasis on how expensive your wardrobe is and the monetary value that each item of clothing possesses. Gone are the days when all anyone wore was a pair of Adidas sneakers and a tracksuit. Rappers in this day and age, as opposed to gaining access to fashion as a result of success, are currently having their value as an artist judged simply by their appearance, and this occurs even before they become famous. The images that follow feature several well-known musicians and artists parading around in the world's most costly clothing purely to flaunt it on social media. This sad trend in the culture exemplifies how hip-hop music has evolved into an industry in which money and recognition have supplanted reputation as a high-quality musician as the most important factor. Another illustration of how culture has shifted is the message that is encoded in the song's lyrics performed by the musicians themselves. During the early stages of hip development hops as a national industry, numerous sub-genres of rap music emerged with an emphasis on political activism and defiance. At the time, groups like Public Enemy, which originated in New York, participated in demonstrations against the oppression of African Americans and members of other ethnic minorities by the government. As a collective entity, they take a stand against tyranny and bigotry in their song Fight the Power, which was initially released in 1988. Hip-hop can be divided into two schools, old and new. Why is there such a big difference? The beats are where the old, school, new, school styles of hip-hop are most easily distinguished from one another. Old, school hip-hop songs often include between 2 and 3 beats that are layered one on top of the other, and the lyrics are kept straightforward and easy to grasp. New school hip-hop typically consists of tracks with between 6 and 8 beats, ad-libs, and a broad variety of processed effects, such as reverb and echo. In new school hip-hop, the language is not only far more complicated, but the delivery speed of the lyrics is almost twice as quick as it was in old school hip-hop. Hip-hop from the good old days. The variety, quality, originality, and influence of old school hip-hop are some of its defining characteristics. Public Enemy, KRS-One in his Boogie Down Productions, Eric B. and Amp, Rakim, De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, and the Jungle Brothers are all examples of popular old school hip-hop performers. In addition, there is a time in the history of hip-hop that is referred to as mid-school hip-hop, and it encompasses acts like Gang Starr, the UMCs, Main Source, Lord Finesse, EPMD, Just Ice, Stetsasonic, True Mathematics, and Mantronics. Hip-hop from the old school. The musical style known as New School Hip-Hop was first distinguished by its drum machine-dominated minimalism, which was frequently tinted with elements of rock. Rappers would often deliver their taunts and boasts about their skill in a combative and self-assured manner, which the audience would hear. This shifted as a result of listeners losing interest in the street b-boy attitude that was being presented. New school hip-hop artists quickly learned that to appeal to their audience, they needed to create shorter songs, receive more airplay on the radio, and create more cohesive albums. This assisted in establishing new school hip-hop as a permanent presence inside the mainstream music industry. Public opinion. There's little question that a shift in public perception is connected to a change in culture due to the enormous changes that have taken place at fundamental hops level. Over several decades, public opinion has evolved in tandem with specific characteristics of rap culture and how its influence is thought to be felt within the community. The general public was on board with the non-violent, funky aspect of the music during the time of Run DMC. However, as racial tensions rose in the United States and as MCs realized they were protected by the First Amendment, hip-hop abruptly became a form of self-expression where artists could say anything they wanted. How was the video? Do you enjoy it? Tell us in our comments section below and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates.